Is it time to buy Bitcoin? Well, a top crypto hedge fund, Pantera Capital, seems to think so. There are Bloomberg headlines. This is coming out April 12th, just a few days ago, saying that they believe Bitcoin has bottomed out. Uh, an article from Cointelegraph says crypto hedge fund Pantera Capital, BTC will highly likely break $20,000 this year. So currently, the Bitcoin price is at 8,300, and the absolute low so far from the correction of the 2018 New Year was around just below 6,000, around 5,900 something, back in February. I think it was February 6th, and we recently reached a low around like April 6 or 7, around 6,400, 6,500. And now the price is from that low is up almost like 33% at 8,300. Now, my perspective is that, what we're seeing in Bitcoin price action in the last week, I'm talking about the second week of April. So, April 1st, that April Fool's Day, Bitcoin made a, potentially significant, close to a significant bottom. And, it tried to pop up a little bit, and then on that second week, it pulled back down. But then from that second week into the third week, we started seeing this rally. And it's significant because we were able to pop over the down trend line from the very highs around 20,000. So if you connected a trend line from that 20,000 high towards each lower high coming after that. So I'm talking about the lower high that came in January, the lower high that came in March, and each time it touches that line and it pulls back down. Now, this is the first time, around April 11th, 12th, that we're seeing a push above that downtrend line and actually staying there for more than a couple of days. So, like, it's actually been, today's April 15th, tax deadline day for a lot of people. And actually, it actually might be tomorrow since it's a weekend. But it actually staying there for a little bit. And the way it usually works with downtrend lines, it's if it goes above the downtrend line, which at this point is the intersection is around like 7,800, 7,900. If it goes above there, stays a couple of days, and ideally pulls back down, so maybe like the 7,600 range, and then from there it rockets upward, that would kind of like be like a textbook kind of pattern play out. So right now we're above that range, 8,300. It's very possible that we just could go straight up. It's also very possible that we could go back down to 7,600. And my hunch is that if it goes to 7,600 and stabilizes there, that would be kind of like an optimal buy situation in case you're not already in Bitcoin. But I think this is a very significant move, and let's walk through some of these these articles about Bitcoin. And some quotes from these top hedge fund managers, what they're saying about Bitcoin. So we have Bitcoin, this article from highlighting Pantera Capital Management. And let me just start off with the quote that I think is most significant. So before that quote, they say that they have over $800 million in assets, and they believe that $6,500, which is what it was just 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, was the low for this bear market, and they believe it's going to go towards 20,000 and surpass it. And I think the most significant quote is this one right here. For those who are new to Pantera, who might think a fund manager like Pantera would always be saying, today's a great day to get long, wrote Pantera's Dan Morehead and Joey Krug. He continues, I rarely have such strong conviction on timing. A wall of institutional money will drive the markets much higher. Right? So this is not something, they're basically saying that, they're not saying, hey, we always think Bitcoin's going to go up. In fact, I believe, given the track record of how they're performing, either they're dollar cost averaging into this thing, or they successfully traded and sold when it was high and bought in pieces as it got lower. But when a top hedge fund manager says that they're rarely they rarely have such strong conviction on timing, and they don't always say to buy. I think that level of rarity and specificity in terms of timing, I think is very significant. So this article is on Bloomberg. There's another article from Cointelegraph uh, saying that it's gonna break 20,000, and most notable on April 12th, it jumped up $1,000 in 30 minutes, and I think that's when it jumped up from the 6,000s into the 7,900 region, and so I think that's significant. So there's a lot more articles along with if you Google George Soros, the crazy crypto. Well, he's more of a currency hedge fund manager. Plays a global macro strategy, and kind of broke the Bank of England way back in the decades ago. And there was rumors about him, and not necessarily him, but people under him getting approval for trading cryptocurrencies in general, and in large part Bitcoin. And so, there are headlines saying George Soros to start trading cryptocurrencies after saying Bitcoin was a bubble. So he said it was a bubble during this crash that we just experienced, and it's very possible that people under him, or maybe with his approval, now getting interested in this space. There are a lot of like charts circulating that like Google Trends. I think if you look at the level of interest in the term Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. So I have this Google Trends screen up, and I typed in Bitcoin, and they show this interest over time graph that I thought was really interesting. And basically you could see in April of 2017, the reading is at around like a 10, maybe like a 5 or 8. It's a scale out of 100, and then if you scale it to 100, where basically on December 17th to 23rd of 2017, that if that's 100, then the interest level right now is way back to 17, right? So we were at 5 1 year ago, and it went all the way to 100, a 20x in terms of interest, and now we're back down to 17. And so that just shows that the interest in terms of people searching for Bitcoin is has been very low, and actually has reached low levels compared to what it was just a few months ago. And so if you think about when people are least interested in something, that's probably the time when you want to buy it. When people are most interested in it and it's making all headlines, that's probably when you want to sell. Of course, hindsight is 2020, but the in terms of how your strategy for buying cryptocurrencies in general, we here recommend a dollar cost average strategy, and that's actually what I'm putting into practice for a crypto fund that I put together called Pantera Capital, where for investor funds we're basically dollar cost averaging, where every day we're deploying a set dollar amount. And how that works, I'll pull up a chart of Bitcoin. Is basically, as the price of Bitcoin kind of trends down, you're buying a piece. So let's say at 10,000 you buy, let's say for example $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. Then the price goes down, and you still buy another $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. But since the price is lower, let's say it's 8,000, then you're actually buying 1 point something, right? It's a little bit more than one Bitcoin. And so if let's say you bought at the very top, you bought at 20,000. It doesn't matter what the price is, the strategy. If you follow dollar cost averaging, you basically commit a set dollar amount to purchasing that cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or something else, and you keep buying it, and the longer it stays at a certain price, the more that you buy at that price. And so basically what ends up happening is if you believe that it's going to go up, when it finally does go up, you're going to have a good average price, and you won't be kind of spooked out of selling at a low price. So that's the dollar cost average strategy that Warren Buffett recommends for the S&P 500. I think doing the same approach with cryptocurrency, and ideally not looking at your account, because the more you look at your account, the more heart attacks you're gonna get. And if you commit to that strategy and believe that it will eventually go up, then you will get a good dollar cost average price. And so in the long term, that should give you good exposure, with something that you believe will go up. So that said, let's take a deeper dive into the price chart of Bitcoin. And I basically label charts and to provide kind of like an Elliott wave count of what might be happening. So from the very top at 20,000, that we have a drop of A, B, and what I thought was a clear 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 C wave down to 5,900. I thought the February 6 lows was the low, and we clearly rallied from 5,900 all the way to 11,600 ish. That's almost a double. But the thing is, from there, it hit that downtrend line and it pulled back. And so that's a downtrend line I was talking about, and that's so significant. It failed that test, and by failing that test, I thought I kind of expected when it failed, but I thought it would pull back and then break above it, and it did pull back to kind of like that 50% retracement level around 8,500, and but when it pulled back there and it tried to rally, it failed, right? It just got stuck there for a couple of days. And really, within those couple of days, it should have kind of moved straight up, but it didn't. And so when that failure happened, that it just kept going down, that was a sign that, hey, this is not, this we might have a A-B pattern formation. So we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A wave, and then we have an AB 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 B wave. All right, so what may have that AB 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 B wave kind of bottomed out in that 6,400 range, and it stayed there for quite a bit of time. I mean, we're talking about March 29th all the way to like April 11th. All right, so that's a good 2-week period that it stayed in that close range, and it very much looked like if it was gonna fail that range, then we could go very much lower. But on April 12th, we got that big signal with that rise towards that downtrend line, and then the next couple of days it didn't like pull back significantly. It actually just stayed there. And actually today, as we're recording this, it's 8,292, reaching over 8,300 for a little bit just earlier. And so basically we have this downtrend line, and the way I see it, if we zoom in, if we're at 8,300 and we pull back down to back test this trend line, I guess it could be 7,450 or so, 7,500. If it goes there and then the very next day starts moving up, I would say that's kind of like the sign that the next wave moving up might be starting, if we haven't started it already. And so that's kind of like my take on this chart. We have an ABC deep correction of well over 50%, and in many markets well over 75%, and then an 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A wave, and then an AB 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 B wave. And then the question is, what happens next? Do we get like a 1, 2, 3, and then we'll get some kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 move to the upside, and followed by pullback, and then perhaps a rocket higher. So that's my hunch right now. Obviously, if your dollar cost averaging, that's not something that you really care too much about, but it's also helpful to just understand where we are in the pattern. And if you more actively trade this and you leverage up, then these patterns are something that you should pay attention to more. Of course, with Bitcoin, the level of volatility that crypto has, I do not recommend leverage, and so this is something that you should really participate in for the long haul. So just that's Bitcoin, and other charts, Ethereum looking also very strong. Neo bottomed at like 42, 43, now at 68. EOS, which is one of the largest ICOs, with I believe is closer to, it's still ongoing actually. It's over a year, and they may be completing their ICO in a few months, where they're actually both listed on an exchange on the Binance exchanges, as well as yeah, where you could contribute to their ICO directly through a MyEther wallet, and they popped up from that February 6th low of 3.9 or so, and they're now at 8, so it's almost a triple. Of course, they were as high as 18 at one point. So there's some significant moves in the crypto space, and if the level of movement that these cryptocurrencies have experienced on the downside is this amount. I mean, and if the true target is much higher, then it's very possible then we could move very much higher than most people expect. And so when people talk about Bitcoin over 20,000, and actually some authorities state that it's going to 250,000. I don't know about that, but I do, I did have my expectation in the 20 to 30,000 range for by the end of this year. So that's the analysis for Bitcoin, and in my next episode, I'll talk to you about the history of Bitcoin. I'm actually writing an ebook on Bitcoin and what it is, what it means for society, and so I'll read to you guys some portions of it to get a sense of what it is and how you can get started in Bitcoin if you're not already in it, and more importantly, like what applications does it have for society, how it's related to this buzzword blockchain that we're all talking about. And so I think it's going to be very interesting. And so I encourage you to check out that episode. And so I'll see you guys next time in the next episode.